All right, so we are going to start now, and others they can join. So our today's topic is incident detection. Um, let's move to the next slide. So our agenda for today is I'll be taking today less time, around 40 minutes, discussing incident detection, and then from 7:45 we will have a guest speaker, Maha Lasiri. She has a very good experience in the GRC part, governance, risk, and compliance. So she will be talking about some part of governance and then what is the relation between SOC and governance. So these things are very important to know because when you're working in an organization, so as I mentioned before also that you're not working only in SOC, you're not just doing um, the investigation or monitoring, but your capabilities should be more than that in case or if you want to excel or if you want to move ahead in your career, so you should have understanding of the other things around which are happening. You should have some knowledge, you should be able to manage them or at least um answer if somebody comes from the GRC department or comes from the audit department, so you must be able to handle the queries. So that is why I'm just trying to provide you a different kind of flavors of SOC and all the other departments which are engaged in day-to-day activity with SOC. So I'll skip the slide about the profile. Our technology partner Splunk, uh, Thursday and Wednesday, Friday will have labs, and tomorrow I'm going to share you link how to download Splunk and some material related to Splunk. So you can all download the material from the Splunk website, the Splunk software application. Installation is very easy, it's Windows based. And then there are PDF documents explaining you how to access the application. In case you have any issues in that, you can drop an email at trainings@miral.me. Okay. So incident detection and analysis. Um, our topic is about detection, how to detect any threat, any vulnerability. But when once you detect something, you have to analyze it. So incident detection and analysis, they are linked together. It's not like you just detect something and simply you forward it to the L2 or you send an email to the IT team mentioning that there is an incident we detect. Once you detect something, you have to do some analysis, you have to perform some investigation in order to make sure that if this incident is false positive or true positive. So if the threat is real or if there is a false alarm. So that is part of the analysis done by the analyst. Or if there is something which is like more than your capability, so then you refer to your senior, which is L2 or SOC manager, so they can help you in that. So then again, incident detection and response. So it's a full cycle. Remember, we are going to discuss the other parts of response, incident response, in the last day of my presentation. That would be on Thursday. So we'll be discussing full detail how the cycle works, what are the phases of incident response. So overall, whenever there is any threat or there is a suspicious activity or malicious activity, so you have different tools deployed in the network, and these tools are supposed to detect those malicious behavior, those suspicious activities, those attackers. Okay, so once they detect, they will notify you. Notify you means the notification will be sent to the SIM through the logs. Then the SIM, it will show you an alarm, an alert. Okay, or maybe based on its own machine learning, because these new applications, they are doing part of machine learning also, so they are looking at the logs, understanding the logs, and based on that they are also generating some machine based alarms. So you will have an alert or alarm. So this alarm will tell you that there is some malicious activity happened or is going to happen, or something is happening at the current moment. Okay, so once you detect something, okay, so along with the detection and analysis, you need team members, because it's not a one man job, because you need to engage different people. Maybe if your organization, they have like a reverse engineer, so and you found a malware which seems suspicious, so your reverse engineer need to analyze the code of that malware. Sometimes what happen, your application team, they custom developed one small application, but your antivirus or your firewall, it flagged it as malicious. It's an executable file, and it flagged it as malicious. So now your reverse engineer or your application team, they have to analyze actually what went wrong, what happened, due to which there was a alarm, or there was a alert, or there's a detection from the security tools. Okay, so you need different teams. Sometimes you perform these activities within the SOC. Sometimes, if you find, like for example, you have an antivirus which flagged a custom application as malicious, then you have to submit the hash or submit the application to the antivirus vendor, to the antivirus manufacturer. So they can then evaluate this file. They can review the file, and based on that, they can whitelist the file from their antivirus. Otherwise, every time you will be having a false positive alarm. Okay, so this is the full cycle of the incident response I was talking. So it starts from preparation. Preparation means like you already have prepared your policies, procedures, your framework. You know about your team, their capabilities. Then you have the technology. You have the business processes defined. You have the strategic policies defined. So this is all part of preparation. Along with the preparation, you will also bring the technology into your environment, which will be helpful, or which will be there to make your job easy, make your work easy, the detection and response part. So from preparation, you move to detection, which we are going to study today about. And then the next phase is containment, eradication, and recovery. This and then post-incident activity, these two phases we discuss on Thursday in detail. So moving to the next part, which is related to detection. So as an analyst, what would be the indicators which will help you to identify any kind of activity, if it is malicious, if it is a threat, how you can identify? So there are two kind of possibilities. One is the probable indicator, which may be a threat or which may not be a threat. It could be a false positive. Then the other is definite indicators. Okay. So what could be probable indicators which will tell you about a certain threat? For example, in SOC, you receive an alarm at midnight that one of the user, normal user or administrator, he log into the system. Okay. So this is unexpected time for them to access their workstation. So you have defined some kind of criteria, some kind of conditions that if you see this, so there will be an alarm. Okay. So based on that alarm, you will got an indication of a threat. Now you need to validate it, because analysis and validation is must from the SOC analyst. You need to verify it if this what is happening it's legitimate, it is authorized, or it is unauthorized. That you can verify by looking at who logged into the system, who is the manager of that user. You can contact that user's manager. You can call him and you can ask, or you can see if there's any email sent from the department that we have an activity scheduled for tonight. So by this you can validate about this indication that this is a threat or not threat. Similarly, sometimes you will find some new accounts are created, user accounts. So now these days, the HRMS, human resource management system, they are sort of automated now. So when you add any new employee, you create a profile of the employee in the HRMS. So it is integrated with the Active Directory. At the same time, once you create the profile, a user account will be created for that user. Okay. So once a new user account create, again you have set some conditions which will tell you that there is a new account created. and then you need to verify it again. You need to validate by looking at the email, by calling the HR team, by sending an email to them to validate. So there could be a reported attack. Somebody report that there is an attack, but this attack again, it could be false positive depending on what kind of indications or logs you are seeing. Or you get notification from security detection tools. You get notification from the firewalls, from the IDS, IPS, antivirus. As in the beginning, I mentioned that there could be a file or application created by your internal team which is flagged as malicious. So you get that notification that there is a malicious file on the network. Whereas this file is not malicious. It is malicious because the tool thinks that its signature, its code is uh, matches with the family of a virus or malware. So these are the probable indicators. Then what about the definite indicators? So if you see that there was a user account which was disabled, and all of a sudden this account is enabled at a certain point or certain time, maybe in the midnight. So this is something which is not normal. But again, you need to validate it. You need to see that who enabled this account, who was the user who performed this activity on this dormant account. Or if you see changes to logs, log file are deleted. Okay. So based on that, your analysis, you can see that the files which are deleted, these are routine activity, or these are like security log files which are sensitive. They should not be deleted. So this will establish that there is something malicious happening. Or for sure, if you see on one of the computer hacker tools, okay, like mimikatz or any other similar file, some PowerShell scripts or any similar files which are malicious, or which are not legitimate files. So this will make tell you that there is something malicious happening on your network. Okay. Then there is notification by a partner or peer. So we usually receiving indicators of compromise or IOCs from the national regulator based on the experience of other companies which might have faced these kind of issues. So then they share these IOCs with all the companies within the kingdom. So we take these IOCs and we scan them, these IOCs within our SIM, to see if any of our machine, or if any of our system is compromised, or there is a communication between our system and those IOCs. Or the last one, if you found a notification by a hacker on your computer, like saying that your system is compromised, or you see a ransomware screen, so that is for sure, it's definite indicator. So what are the tools which will tell you that something malicious is happening? So there are two kind of tools, or two kind of sources. One is active, one is passive. Active ones are like firewalls. Firewalls are there because their function is to detect, their function is to block. So their function is to monitor the traffic, what is coming into the network, what is going out to the network. So definitely firewall, they have their own algorithms, they have their own database of signatures or heuristic based methods. Based on that, they will tell you that there is something which is not normal. Email gateways, again, they are created in a way that they will filter all your emails. They will look for phishing content, they will look for abusive material, they will see for the attachments coming. Sometimes the attachment will be sent as PDF, but the content inside the file is executable. So they send this to evade the email security solution, so that it cannot detect this. So then you have IDS, IPS. The IDS, IPS can be built inside the firewall also, but there are standalone products available as well. You can have honeypots to trap the attackers. You can have antivirus. You will have EDR, solution endpoint detection and response, and you will have XDR, the network detection and response. So with the passage of time, the vendors, they are realizing the needs of different products. So there's not a single tool or product which will do the detection. So you need a layer of tools, a layer of security solutions which will do this job. So these are active, but then there are passive also. Like if a new user account is created on Windows, no one is going to tell you that there is a new account is created, because this is a normal activity. If you see for the system, excuse me, from system perspective, it's a normal activity, user account creation or user account deletion, or giving privileges to a user. But then we set up certain conditions which are called use cases. These use cases will tell us that there is something happening on the network which is not normal. Otherwise, you will not get an alarm or notification from these sources. So there are like passive tools and there are like active tools. The active tools, they are there to do this their job, but passive tools, they have different functions. They are not security tools. So then you have to create cases to monitor them or detect malicious activity. So what are the detection methods? So I'll just give you a high level detail about like detections, how the detections happen. This is very important in case if in your future you wanted to like go into the field of malware analysis or reverse engineering. So you should understand this, how the security tools work. So basically there are two methods. One is signature based and other is heuristic analysis. In a signature based process, you have like a unique identifier. Okay, for example, semantic antivirus, today they found a file. Okay, and they execute this file within their environment to see what this file is doing, what kind of processes it creating, if there is any communication to the external IPs or something like this. So after testing, based on that, what they do, they create a signature or hash for this file, and they enter this hash into their database. Now, whenever there is any file coming with any different name, what they will do, they will check the hash of that file. If the hash matches or if the signature matches, so it will tell that this file is malicious. Whereas heuristic analysis, it works in a different way. It examines the code of the attached file. It doesn't have a specific hash or signature for that file, but what it will do, it will try to run this file, execute this file within its own environment, and it will monitor the behavior of that file. Based on that, it will flag it as malicious, but it will not flag it malicious based on the signature. So this is the difference. Now, in signature based methods, you develop signatures for different kind of detections. Like if there is an intrusion, so based on signature it can detect. Okay, I'll tell you. When there is intrusion detection or prevention, you use signature in that one. Antivirus, anti-malwares, they use signatures. For the traffic patterns, signatures are used to detect. For applications, there are signatures to use for detection. So, what are the characteristic of these signatures? How you develop them? How you build them? So you have like different kind of patterns or contents like byte patterns. If you have worked on assembly language, okay, so all the code, all the source code which are written in maybe C language or in any other programming language, once they are compiled, so they are converted into machine language or machine level code. So machine level code, it's very easy to modify it if you have like good command on assembly. So what happens, for example, if a certain packet, if you change one byte in that packet, network packet, so this byte will become something else. So by this way, the signature is changed. So you monitor those bytes or you check the file types like exe files, com files. These files are for sure, their purpose is executable, to execute. So if the network, sorry, if the your security tool like antivirus, they detect such kind of file like executable file or com file, immediately they will flag it as suspicious. For the port, there are certain ports which are used by hackers. Like if somebody is trying from outside to access port 22, so this could be like a signature-based detection. Then protocols, TCP, UDP, or any other, and hashes. So what is a hash? Basically, for each file, whether it is a JPEG file, whether it is executable file, PDF file, text file. For each file, the system or software, they create a smaller code which is called hash. This hash is basically a unique value for that file. So whenever like any file is flagged as malicious executable file, so the antivirus, it will get hash of that file. So it will add the hash of that file into its database as well, because based on that it's easy to compare for any other file to see if it's the same file or if it's a different file. Now for the sandbox, uh, why do we use sandbox? There are certain conditions. For example, you receive an attachment, a PDF file, okay, and the user says that he was not expecting that file through the email. Now you want to check that file. The problem is that as soon as you click that file, the file will be executed. Execution mean it will open. Once the file is opening, so there is a code which is for the Adobe PDF, but the hacker, it can attach extra code with that file hidden. So this code will also be executed. So it will write some values to the registry. It will create a new folder in your C drive or in your temp folder, or it will look for places where it can, have it can write the files without having administrative privileges. So now the user said that he didn't expect this file, but he wanted to know what is inside the file. So in that case, if you are just like executing this file directly on your workstation or the user workstation, so there are chances that this file is malicious, and you can breach your network, or you can get compromised. So you take this file into sandbox. So sandbox is an isolated environment. Okay. So in the sandbox, when once you run this file, in this isolated environment, it will try to monitor the behavior of this file. So it's like heuristic based method. So it will monitor or observe what is happening once you execute this file. Based on these observations, it will give you a report showing what happened once you open this file. So in sandbox, you can open the file, you can see the content, and you will also get to know that what executed at the back end of that file. So that is why we use sandbox. I hope I answered the question. Now, the advantages of signature based detection, uh, uh, you will find updates regularly from the vendors, because as soon as there is any new file or any suspicious file there, so these vendors, they try to study those files, and they try to get new definition files for these, and you can download them in a single day or every single day, so your signatures are updated on regular basis. So signatures, they can return also for IDS or IPS or application as well. Then another thing is that signature usually, they point to a family of malicious content. Like for example, if one criminal or one hacker, he wrote a virus, then another criminal, he took the code of that virus and he modified that virus for evasion purpose, or make some changes in the behavior. But i- if you change the full code, so then there is something new. But if you change part of that code, so it means that there is a relation between the old virus and the new virus. So on signature based detection, you can identify that this virus belong to that family. And since it works on the false positive, sorry, signatures, so you will not get too many false positive, because it will match the signature and it will give you the result. The disadvantages is that it can be evaded. The attackers, as every passing day they are coming with new techniques, so they can make the antivirus fool. They can let the antivirus think that this is a normal file, so evasion can be avoided. Then if there is a 0 day threats, so you will not find immediately signatures for them, because this is something which is still not established. So there is a flaw in one of the, let's say, windows, and nobody knows about that. One attacker accidentally, or he was like trying to infiltrate, and he discovers something. So this is something which is not in the market. So even the vendor, Microsoft, they themselves doesn't know that there is a flaw in their program. So this 0 day they can sell to the uh, on the dark web, to the hackers who are willing to pay for these kind of threats. So these threats will not be um, identified or will not be detected by the antivirus because they don't have signature for that. Since it works based on the signatures. Deployment of updates may be slow. If there are more updates, it will take some time to update. Okay. And the more you check for, the more data you have to match. So it's like, because it's signature based, so it will take more process, or more time to match the files. So heuristic based detection, it's usually faster scanning because it's not looking at the signature, but it looks only at the behavior, how the file is like working, what is the functions of that file. Okay. Secondly, evasion can be more difficult since malware can follow patterns. So in that case, to evade from the tool, from the antivirus or from the firewall will be difficult because it's working on the pattern and it's working on different algorithms, but not on the signatures. Okay. And then the disadvantage is also like, it will not give you detailed information. It will give you generic information because it just observes the behavior of a file, and based on that it flag it as malicious or suspicious, but it will not do the detailed investigation that will be done on by the antivirus part or by the signature based method. So you'll have more details from there, but this is good to stop or detect any malicious activity immediately. Okay. Then evasion can still be performed even if it is more difficult, but still you can evade the heuristic detection. Since it's based on the behavior, so your false positives may go up, so you'll get alarms which are not real, and your false negatives might also go up. So there are things which are not detected at all. So these are the like disadvantages. So that is why, as I mentioned, that you use a layer of security tools. So you have a firewall which will be working on heuristic or signature or hybrid. Then you have antivirus which is working on signature based. Then you can have IDS, IPS. Now yesterday somebody asked about Yara rules. So Yara rules also working on signature based. Let's try to match. Okay. So these are different kind of techniques that you use for detection. Now, as we discussed before that, so there are two kind of ways: active detection and passive detection. So what we were discussing before this was active detection. The tools, those will be sending notifications. The other way is to create use cases. That is very important because without the use cases, your detection will be not complete. You will have only that information which you are getting from your security tools as a notification, but you will not have any other information. So here comes the part of creating use cases. I have given some example of use cases. Like you can create a use case which will be monitoring the authentication activities. So what does mean authentication activities? You can set a condition that to a certain critical system, only the following users 1, 2, 3 are allowed to log in. So if anyone else try to log into that system, create an alert or raise an alert or alarm for us. Similarly, you can set a threshold that if somebody is trying to like log into the system and the failed login attempts are 3, 4, 5, or 6, so a certain threshold reaches, it will give you an alarm. Because in case of brute forcing, the hacker or attacker will try to log in again and again and again. So you need to set a threshold that after this threshold, there should be an alarm. Another kind of use case could be account management. So by this, as I mentioned earlier, that if you create an account at Windows, or you delete an account if an employee left, or you do modify an account, so nobody get to know that. So for that, what you do, you will create alarm. These alarm, what will this do? They will try to look for the logs which have this information like user account creation, user account deletion, user account modification. So the alarms or the SIM solution, they will look at those logs, and then there is a criteria. So once it matches that criteria, it will trigger the alarm. So by this, on your dashboard, you can see alarms which will be telling you that authentication failures are there. You will see alarms that will tell you about account management, account creation or deletion. Similarly, you can have another kind of alarm which will tell you about like connection activities, okay, uh, to internal or to external sources. Also, their direction. If the connection was from external to internal, or from internal to outbound, or external or within the network, the origin IP, from what is the IP from where the connection is coming, what is the destination IP, what kind of ports were used, the host name, the impacted machine, name of a country from where the IP is coming or the destination. All these things you can get from this kind of alarms from the connection activities. Then you can have another use case, policy related activities. So this will be related, especially if there are any changes to the audit or authentication or authorization or filtering or any kind of these kind of policies which are there in the systems. So for example, if somebody changes the audit policy of domain controller, so you will have an alarm. So you can then check the alarm, you can investigate, and you can take certain action. So what we did, we create a detection for a passive action. Okay. Then there are use cases for threats, malware, and vulnerability detection. So again, you need to create or define certain kind of conditions like indicator of compromise. So there are like threat intels or threat feeds available from different vendors like Alien Vault. Yesterday I mentioned different names. So these providers, they're also providing IOCs, indicator of compromises, which contains IP addresses, hashes, domain names, email addresses, URLs, these kind of details there. So that can be incorporated into your SIM. Okay. So based on that, you can create an alarm that if any of your machine it's communicating to one of these IOCs, you will have an alarm. Okay. Then you can have operational insights like day-to-day activities happening in the organization, data usage. As I mentioned yesterday, for example, if you are doing Zoom or Microsoft Teams activity, so it will tell you like what is happening, what amount of data is sent to the external party. So this will give you an detail or information. Then you can have anomalous behaviors. So the anomalous behavior, they are based on the user behavior or profiling. So you create profile of the users about their daily usage. So if they deviate from this activity, so you will see an alarm that this user, his actions are not like routine. So what it does, the same, it has a machine learning techniques. So it will monitor you on daily basis your activities. So for example, in your day-to-day operations, you visit Google, you visit some other websites, but you never visit yahoo.com. So after few days or few weeks, all of a sudden if you visit yahoo.com, so this is like anomalous for it. So it will just give you an alarm. You can validate, you can identify that, because it's not necessary that user will not go to Yahoo or he will go to Yahoo. But to validate it, SOC is there. So once you have an alarm, you need to gather the evidences, the artifacts, the actions. Then you, once you gather all those evidences, based on that you have to decide whether you need to call the user, whether you need to block the IP, whether you need to perform a network scan, whether you need to perform endpoint computer scanning with the antivirus. So these are the actions which will be decided based on the detection. Then you can have alerting and incident response. This is basically, here we are talking about some sort of automation. For example, in organizations, SOC is working 24 by 7, but other departments, they are working in straight shifts. So if And let's say your team only have the monitoring part of SOC. You don't have any other privileges to perform any kind of incident response activity. You are just monitoring and alerting. So you observe, or your analysts observe, that at a night time, a dormant account become active, and it was active by a certain user. So you create a threshold, or you create a rule which define certain conditions. Once these conditions are met, we will define the action also. So if you see that a dormant account was activated by a user who is not authorized, so what will happen? As action, it will again uh, change the state of that user account which was enabled to disabled, and also it will disable that account from which this activity was done. So this is sort of automated incident response. So this can also be managed through the same. Then you have compliance, or regulation, or audit requirements. So SIM, they do incorporate uh, the requirements of, for example, either 27001 or GDPR or PCI DSS or HIPAA. So what they do, they create use cases based on the requirement of these regulators. So these use cases can also be import or integrated into the SIM, depending on what kind of industry you are working in. If you are into medical industry, you will use HIPAA. If you are into banking or financial, you will use PCI DSS and GDPR. So, and if you are any other organization which follow ISO, so you can use the ISO module. Then you can have advanced correlation and enrichment. So this is something like you do some advanced kind of operations or aggregations. So to have advanced analytics. So these are different kind of rules, but I just mention here few of the use cases or few of the rules. Uh, eh, Moving to the next slide, I'm talking about meter attack. Okay. So meter, it's a framework. Okay. Comprehensive metrics of tactics and techniques used by threat hunters, red teamers, and defenders to better classify attack and assess an organization risk. What Meter did basically, if you want to visit the Meter framework, you can go to this website attack.meter.org. I have put a snapshot here, even though it's not readable. But what Meter did, it created the each phase of cyber attack into a framework. So here the very first thing they are talking about initial access, then execution, then persistence, privilege escalation, defense evasion, credential access, discovery, lateral movement, collection, command and control, exfiltration, impact. So basically what they are trying to do in this framework, because whenever hacker want to compromise or access any system, he has to choose, he has to do recon. Okay, so the recon is a part of initial access. So they have defined different kind of ways through which an attacker it can try to access the organization. From phase one, you move to phase two, that is execution. So here they have mentioned different kind of techniques which he can use to execute the payload. Then the third part is persistence. How the attacker he can make sure that his access will be there for a longer period of time. So we will discuss in more detail about this framework tomorrow again for a few minutes. I'll try to open the link as well if possible to give you more idea. But this framework is very useful for the SOC team, SOC analyst, in order to develop their understanding of the attack chain. Then there is another framework called Magma. I haven't added the link here. I'll update the next slide tomorrow. I'll add the link there. So you can also visit Magma framework. That is also very helpful to understand how you can monitor or how you can detect the incidents and respond to them within the organization. That's it from my side today. You will receive again an email with the quiz link. So I hope that all of you that they try to answer the quiz. I will take a pause now for a few minutes, 5 minutes, and then my colleague Maha, she will join, and she will present her topic for today. Thank you.